Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 22nd of November and welcome to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, let's start with the class. Good morning, Apan Toiba, Krishna, Pallavi. Good morning everyone. Now, so guys, we are little bit late today. Fine. However, in the today's video, we are going to take up the entire analysis of the Hindu newspaper. We'll take all the articles, we'll simplify them, we'll see the background, the detailed way forward, etc. Okay. Now, before starting up, I would like to tell you that if you are new here on this particular initiative, you can download the explainer PDF. In the explainer PDF, the notes of all the articles have been given along with the editorials, etc. also. And in the last, we have also given the mains practice question. Fine, the link for the Telegram channel has been given in the description box in YouTube. Moreover, you can visit the Telegram also, and there you can also find the channel. Okay. Now, before starting up, first of all, let's let's take the Hindu newspaper analysis or Hindu newspaper overview so that we can understand that which articles are actually important in the today's newspaper. So the first article, agitating lawyers meet CGI solutions to steer soon. So guys, recently there is one issue that is going on with respect to the transfer of certain of the high court judges. There is the dissatisfaction among us the lawyers that is going on, and in that particular direction the lawyers are agitating. Okay, so in that particular direction, the CGI and the lawyers will be solving this particular issue. Now you don't need to go and follow too deeply this particular article. Very much with respect to the exam, it is not important. Mangaluru blast accused of influence by global terror outfits. Fine. Now these articles doesn't contain much of substance with respect to the exam. Supreme Court declines to stay Kerala High Court's revocation of the VC's appointment. So guys, recently we have seen the editorial also. Even in fact, the yesterday we have seen the editorial where the Kerala High Court has quashed the VC's appointment because it was said that the VC's appointment was not in compliance with the UGC committee recommendations. Okay, so Supreme Court has declined to stay that particular High Court revocation. Now you don't need to again follow guys these particular developments, because always keep in mind that you need to follow the articles where the articles will have some implications for the examination. Okay, then Modi questions Congress on development. The political articles not very much important. Fine. Then guys, again in the regional section, the crime related news, advertisements, fine, the regional politics, etc. has been given. Okay, then moving on, after that we coming to the editorial page. Meanwhile here, ISRO to attempt 200 successful launch of the sounding rocket in a row. Okay, then coming to the editorial page, the dissenting judgment versus the raising of equality. So recently, the Janhit Abhiyan judgment that has come, which have upheld the 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act. In that, the dissenting judge's viewpoint is being discussed in this particular article. We'll see that. Fireproofing India from the global turbulence. We'll see this particular article also with respect to the exam as what it is talking about. Then the Coimbatore and Mangaluru explosion points to the India's Islamist challenge. Okay, then guys, the article fine is not containing much of substance with respect to the examination, though it is saying that it is a big challenge that has emerged. Then the laws and the rules, Kerala must bring individual universities in line with the UGC regulations. Then guys, one more thing I'm telling you, see this right now, this Kerala university issue that is going on, fine, it is becoming more of a politicized issue now. Okay, so understand that academic aspect is important, but the political dimension is not important. The geo heritage value of the Ram Setu, fine. Now in the article guys, basically the most important substance etc is very much limited. Then further moving on, potential upsets and close games in the round 1 of the World Cup. Fine. How different is the new data protection bill? So we'll see that what are the important dimensions that have been given. Then the need to have full disclosure on electoral bonds. Fine. We'll see this article also briefly as what it is talking about. Morbi Bridge tragedy is Morbi Bridge collapse is an enormous tragedy. Supreme Court. Fine. Then guys, after that there are the regional issues etc that have been given, not very much needed. UAE foreign minister may meet Jaishankar during his India visit. So guys, when the India visit will happen, we'll see, and we'll as this India visit will happen, we'll see that, and we'll also see what are the key takeaways that are coming. Fine. Then after that, center says Tamil Nadu government did not respond to its Samagam invite. So basically guys, recently I have told you this particular direction, even if we have taken in the newspaper analysis also, that the government is organizing the Kashi Tamil Kashi Tamil Samagam. And in this Kashi Tamil Samagam, it was said that a cultural exchange between the north and the south will be done. But that particular thing the government has not responded. Then center set standard for the e-commerce reviews. We'll see this particular article. Union Health Ministry launches India suicide prevention policy. This is an important article. We'll see that article. Then guys, further moving on. International arrivals will not need air suvidha forms. Fine, evolutionary detail not very much important for the exam. UK will promote skilled immigration. PM Rishi Sunak. Okay, so the UK will be announcing the immigration, and that particular immigration which will be provided by that, they are trying to attract the best of the best talent from the world. Now guys, just understand briefly one thing, that as we talk about India, India has the youngest population, and because of that demographic dividend that we are having, we have demographic dividend, and at the same time the unemployment is very high in India. So basically such kind of immigration, favorable immigration policies can help the Indian immigrants. Then further moving on, Qatar China sign world's longest gas supply deal. Industry seeks budget measures to spur demand amid global slowdown. We'll see this particular article in detail. Fine. After that, guy, Crisil pairs GDP growth view to 7%. So earlier the Crisil had said that India's growth rate will be 7.3%. Now they have reduced it to 7%. Fine. However, I told you this thing earlier also, that these particular things are dependent on a lot of factors. For example, the inflation rate, the global factors, etc. So whatever is being given, fine, it might change as the economic conditions will be changing again. Then further moving on, private firms urge ministry to debar power grid from bidding. Okay, so in the bidding process, it has been said that power grid, it has more clout, it has big presence, so therefore they should not be allowed. However, for the exam related substance is not there in this article. Then sovereign investors favor US India as a top investment market. We'll see this particular article. And then we have the sports page. So this is guys the overview of the entire newspaper, just to show that which articles are there in the newspapers, and out of that which articles are actually important. Now after that, let's take all the important articles which have some utility with the exam one by one in the detail. Okay, and one more thing guys, understand this particular thing, that simply everything that is coming into the news, it is not important, it is a noise. Out of that noise, you need to filter out the questions, keeping one criteria in mind, that after 6 months, after 1 year, when I'm going to write my exam, will the question be formed on that particular thing or not? So this is the number one criteria that you should always have in your mind. Now taking the all the articles one by one in the detail. Okay, meanwhile, Aishwarya, Ankit, Hardik, Meenu, okay, Pupul, Thulasi, fine. Thank you everyone. I am now feeling better, and thank you for asking. Good morning to all of you. Now, today we'll take the quotation from the Mahatma Gandhi ji. Gandhi ji says that the restoration of free speech, free association, and free press is almost the whole Swaraj. Now, when we talk about the idea of Swaraj, Swaraj means self-rule, but at the same time, Swaraj spiritually also means the emancipation of the people from the drudgeries, from the deprivations of the life, and how that Swaraj can be attained. Swaraj, most importantly, can be attained by three things, that is free speech, association, and free press. Because of why that particular thing, the freedom of speech and expression will be able to be enjoyed by the citizens, and that thing will be helpful in bringing the Swaraj. That is all about it. And now let's take the first article. Okay, how different is the new data protection bill? How different is the new data protection bill? So guys, this particular article is talking about the recently released digital data protection, recently released private data protection bill 2022. On that particular direction, we have even taken the newspaper analysis yesterday, that is on Monday. On Saturday also, I have discussed that particular article in detail, and this is the third day that consecutively this particular article has come. Okay, so there are actually some good points that have been given in this particular article. We'll take all those good points, and finally we can say that after doing so much of an exhaustive coverage, you will be able to write any answer that will come on this particular direction. Okay, now now guys, one more thing. uh, Fine, I might not be sounding that much energetic today. Okay, thoda sa little bit I am under the weather. Okay, but I'll try to make sure that we will be carrying this analysis in the same energy, fine, as we do. Now first of all, there is a little bit of a background that you know, that you should know, though we have discussed this background yesterday also, but still revision, the more the revision, the better it is. Fine. So guys, when we talk about the right to privacy, right to privacy, I have told you that the right to privacy is a fundamental right under the article number 21, and this particular thing was provided by the Puttaswamy judgment. it was provided by the Puttaswamy judgment of the Supreme Court that Article 21 will include the right to privacy. Now, in that particular direction, guys, government was expected to bring a law to to protect the privacy of the citizens. Now, in the past, government had brought the BN Shri Krishna Commission, BN Shri Krishna Commission, which recommended the personal data protection framework, and on the basis of that personal data protection framework, actually, government already 3 years back, government already brought the personal data protection bill, but that particular bill was not passed into the parliament. For the 3 years it just hanged in the parliament. A parliamentary standing committee also gave the suggestions on this personal data protection bill, but recently, just 2 months back, government had withdrawn this personal data protection bill, and now in the place of this, government has brought the new bill. Now this particular bill has been placed for the public comments, and after the public comments are received, the government will finally be preparing the final version of that particular bill, will introduce it into the budget session, and probably by the monsoon session that particular bill will be passed. Clear? So this is something. Now this particular bill, guys, it has some very important features. By the way, if you are seeing it for the first time, I will request you that you please watch the yesterday's newspaper analysis. There we have discussed into the entire detail all the features of this particular bill. Okay, today this particular article that had come, this article is majorly talking about what this bill has missed, what are the shortcomings of this particular bill, what are the contentions or the limitations of this particular bill. It is being discussed here. Okay, so let's discuss. However, for detailed features, you can watch the yesterday's video. Now, this particular bill, it is provided that the bill has actually failed on two of the dimensions, two of the important rights it has not talked about. Number one, it is the uh, right of data portability, and second is the right to be forgotten. On these two particular rights the bill has not discussed much. First of all, the right to data portability, what this particular right means. Now, guys, suppose this particular thing, you know this thing, that suppose you are using an Airtel sim, okay, and you have a particular number, you have a particular mobile number, you have an option that you can port your Airtel sim into the Geo sim. Your mobile number will stay same, you have this kind of a portability. But guys, what about the portability from the social media websites? Suppose I have made a I am using the Facebook, and I want to switch from Facebook to some other kind of a social platform that had come. Okay, now you see this particular thing, that if I want to switch from Facebook to other kind of a platforms, I have to make a new account here. I have to make a new account here. I have to again provide all of my information. I have to upload all of my photographs, post, etc. that I have done into the past. So this is something that is provided. Now this bill had not discussed that the citizens should be given a opportunity power that they can ask for the data portability. So all the data that is there into the Facebook, that particular data will directly be transferred to the new platform to which I wanted to switch, and on that particular platform my profile will be prepared. So this is something. So here, what this right to data portability is, it allowed the data principal. Now who is the data principal? I have told you 4 or 5 times. Data principal is a person or an entity to whom the data belongs. Okay, so my date of birth, I am the data principal there. So it provides the right to the data principal that they can receive in a structured format all the personal data that they had provided to the data fiduciary, and data that the data fiduciary had generated. So the data that you have provided, now you are uploading your photograph, that is your data. You are telling them your date of birth, that is your data. You are putting some kind of post, that is your data. So all that data can be provided. Now this will empower the data principals them to choose between the different platforms. For example, if the data principal is not satisfied with that social media platform if they are currently using, they could request for porting their entire data on some other platform. So this is something which will be empowering the people. Okay, but at the same time, people, they have a lot of spare time. They simply will go and they will make a new platform. The people will say that it is not that much important, but anyhow, whenever we talk about the right, we always talk about empowering the people, and this is one way in which the citizens could have been empowered. Then the second right that the bill has not discussed is the right to be forgotten. Now understand this particular thing. So understand this particular thing, that actually what happened, the previous bill that I told you was presented into the parliament, it specifically mentioned about the right to be forgotten as a separate right. But this particular bill has not specifically mentions about the right to be forgotten. Now, first of all, what is the right to be forgotten? So right to be forgotten is something like this, that suppose suppose you have given some of your data to a particular platform, and they are using that particular data, they are sending you mails, they are using that particular data. Now suppose you want that this particular website should not use my data, or this particular platform or organization should not use my data from now onwards. So you can raise the right to be forgotten, and you can tell them that please don't use my data from now onwards. Actually, I want to tell you one real life case study also that happened. So recently, one of a celebrity approached to the judiciary because that celebrity said that few years back that celebrity was involved in some kind of a issue, and some of the videos were shot, and those videos are circulating onto the YouTube and other social media sites. And that celebrity asked that those videos that are there onto the YouTube, they are to be pulled back because I want to use my right to be forgotten. So suppose I had done something and my photos, videos are available onto the YouTube, I can ask them that you remove that. So there is a right to be forgotten that is there. Now this particular bill has not separately mentions the right to be forgotten, rather they have assumed this particular right under the right to erasure, under the right to erasure. Now this is something that has been provided. Now it under the right to erasure, what you can do, you can go and you can ask that entity to remove the data or to erase the data from that particular data set. But it has been provided that earlier bill, it was separately mentioned as a separate independent right, but now it has been subsumed under a broad category. That is something that has been provided. Okay, and it is provided that right to erasure with the right to be forgotten. Okay, it is something which would empower the people. Then the other contentions that are coming in this particular direction is that the issue of the age of digital consent, age of digital consent. So what is this age of digital consent? First of all, let's understand in a very simple words. So basically guys, we understand, we assume that a person once have attained the age of 18 will be major, and below the age of 18 a person will be minor, a person will be minor, and a minor person cannot give the consent. Okay, first of all, POXO talks about the sexual consent. As per the POXO Act, a person less than 18 years of age cannot give the consent for the sexual intercourse. But then there is also the digital consent. What is a digital consent? Suppose you want to use one particular website. Now on that website, you need to give a consent that yes, you are above 18 years of age and you can access the website. So the digital consent is needed. Now it has been provided that digital consent minors cannot give. So their parents have to give the digital consent. Parents have to give a digital consent. Now it has been provided that the age of digital consent is at 18, and it means that the guardian or the parents, they would have to give the consent for certain websites, certain TV programs, or certain internet things. So, fine. Now this becomes an issue for three reasons. What are the reasons? Number one, this particular bill putting the age of 18 years, it negates the evolving capacity. Now what is the meaning of the evolving capacity? It simply means that we need to understand that suppose a 6-year-old toddler and a 17-year-old teenager. Okay, 6-year-old toddler and 17-year-old teenager, they are not the same, they are different. A 17-year-old person knows a lot of things. She knows that what they should be watching, what they should not be watching. But a 6-year-old toddler doesn't know. See, when a 17-year-old person is there, that person can use his or her discretion also. That okay, these things are being shown, but actually in the real life, these things don't happen. So that 17-year-old person has the discretion. But the 6-year-old person doesn't have that particular understanding. They don't have that particular wisdom. Now the article is talking about that be the 6-year-old person, be the 17-year-old person, they all have been used in a same manner. Evolving capacity, they are not being treated differently. Fine. So therefore, this is one area where this particular bill has missed. Secondly, it is provided that it will lead to unequal access to the internet. Okay, both the 6-year-old, 17-year-old, they need to take the consent. Okay, they will be facing unequal access. Moreover, it will also hamper the autonomous development of children, since parent may not want to expose them to the viewpoint contradictory to their own. So they will not be able to see the independent thoughts, independent viewpoints. Only what the parents viewpoint are the ones the parents will show them that, and it will hamper their independent development. According to the article, it is being said that it is in violation with the obligation of India under the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Okay, so we have signed the Convention of the Rights of the Child. On that particular election, it violates that. So this is the issue that is coming. Then the next issue that is coming here is that basically, see, there is a issue of data sovereignty that comes from time to time. Now, what is the data sovereignty? First of all, data sovereignty means that the data, okay, suppose now there are the people who are using the social media, who are using the Amazon, and they are generating some data. Now, usually what happens, the Amazon will be storing that particular data into the data centers located in some other country, some European country, USA, or some other country. The Amazon will be locating that data. Now, the data sovereignty provides that the data that is being generated in a country from their own citizens, that data is to be physically stored within that country only. That is the data sovereignty. You cannot take the data to some other country. Now, on the data sovereignty, there comes the issue of data localization. Now, data localization in very simple terms means that data needs to be locally stored. Now, in the previous bill, there was the strong provisions about the data localization. Now, understand that whenever the data localization issue will come, the industry will not be happy with that, because industry will say that if we need to physically store the data in country, it will increase our servers cost and all such kind of things. So data localization is always problematic. It impacts the ease of doing business. So in this 2022 Digital Personal Data Bill 2022, what government had said? Government had said that they will allow the cross-border data flow to those countries and territories which will be notified by the central government. So we can see that very strict data localization norms have not been implemented. Government can allow the flow of the data, but there is one problem. What is the problem? Problem is that they fail to provide the criteria on whose basis the government will decide. For example, you can take the data to France, you can take the data to Italy, but you cannot, let's say, take the data to Denmark. Now, why we cannot take the data to Denmark? That particular ground has not been provided. So just government will notify, but government is not bound to give the reason that which data, which countries they are allowing, which countries they are not allowing. Then the next thing that provides here is that now, guys, in this particular bill, fine, there is also the provision of the Data Protection Board of India. Now, Data Protection Board of India will be that organization that will make sure that all the provisions of the data protection bill are being implemented, they are being followed, there are no lack of compliances, all such kind of a thing will be seen. But actually, the power of this Data Protection Board of India is very much limited. Why the power is limited? Because out of the 22 clauses that are there into this particular bill, central government has been given the power that they will make the rules in 14 clauses. So out of the 20 clauses, 20 provisions of the bill, in the 14, the central government will decide what is to be done, what is not to be done. So basically, this Data Protection Board of India's power will only be onto the 8 provisions. So therefore, their power has got diluted. Now, this also had implications because of many other reasons also. First of all, guys, understand this thing, that government is the largest data fiduciary. Now, what is a data fiduciary? It is an organization or an entity that stores the data. Now, Government of India is the largest data fiduciary. It is having so much of your data, your birth data, your people's death data, their ration card, their family members, their health information. So government is having the data of millions and millions of people and is processing that particular data for many services, for many benefits. Okay, for example, in the name of Aadhaar, government has so much of the data. Now, when government is biggest data fiduciary, and if government will make the law, fine, so government is the data fiduciary and government will decide the rule, it will lead to the conflict of interest. It will lead to the conflict of interest. Is it clear? Then the next thing that is coming here is that, fine, it can make rules onto the data protection obligations, data breach, data protection, impact assessment, data audits, all these particular kind of things. Okay, and here again the government is involved and government is making the law. The point is that government is making law. What is our obligation? What will be happen? What will be happening into the case of data breach? So in that particular case, government will only be serving their own interest. Then the last and the most important issue that has come, basically there is no storage limitation on government. What it means, it means, now you see this particular thing, the data protection bill that we have discussed yesterday as well as we have discussed on Saturday, it very clearly provided that the data is not to be stored for the infinite times. Data is to be stored only for that time by which the data is relevant. Okay, beyond that particular time the data should not be stored, but government can continue to store, to retain the personal data for unlimited period of time. Even when the purpose of that data has been over, still the government will store that particular data. So that is one issue that has come in this particular direction. Okay, then moving on into the next article. Union Health Ministry launches India's first suicide prevention policy. Now this article will be very much important with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues related to the health and welfare, issues related to the health and welfare. Now before going on in this particular article, little bit of a background will take. So basically guys, when we talk about suicide, okay, or an act of killing himself or herself, it was a criminal activity under the Indian Penal Code, IPC. Is it clear? Suicide was an offense under the IPC. But actually what happened, the things got changed in 2017 when the Mental Health Act came. Mental Health Act of 2017. This particular act provided that the suicide is not a offense, it is not a crime. Rather, we need to empathize with the person who is resorting to this particular activity. We need to see that this is a mental condition where a person is under so much of stress, a person is under so much of anxiety, maybe from a depression, that a person is taking this particular extreme step. So rather than criminalizing that particular thing, these people are needed to be given support. These people are needed to be given the mental, they are needed to be provided mental assistance. Okay, so therefore, the 2017 Mental Health Act decriminalized it. This is one good thing that happened. Now, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, now they have announced that they are coming with the National Suicide Prevention Strategy. Now, what is this National Suicide Prevention Strategy? It will aim to reduce the suicide mortality by 10% by 2030. So, whatever suicidal deaths are there, they will be reduced by 10% by 2030. Now, first of all, why it is important? Guys, understand very important point. I told you multiple number of times that we have the youngest population, okay, and because of that young population, we will face a economic benefit which is called as the demographic dividend. When the young population is there, at the same time, these populations will also be facing the anxieties. They will also be facing the competition, cutthroat competition in terms of career, in terms of education, and all these particular things will increase the stress, and this stress will lead to the mental anxieties, it will lead to mental depressions. In India, the mental health has always been an ignored issue. Okay, the funding onto the mental health is not there. Mental health is stigmatized in India, and sometimes when the people are suffering from the mental health challenges, when they are in depression, anxiety, they are very much reluctant to ask for the help because it is a social stigma, and then they end up in taking these extreme measures. So therefore, India, India, more than 1 lakh lives are lost every year due to suicide, and it is the top killer in the age of 15 to 29 years. Now you see the pattern here. Young people are more prone to suicide because they are more prone to the HL challenges, mental health challenges, and all such kind of a thing. And when we talk about the suicide rate in India, it has increased from 10.2 to 11.3% per 1 lakh population, who says Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And at the same time, it has been provided that the biggest reason for the suicide are: number one, the family problems, illness. Okay, and the family problem leads to 34% of suicides, illness lead to 18% of the suicide related deaths. Okay, so we have a very high, and we have a very big burden of suicidal deaths in India. So therefore, we have now come out with a dedicated strategy. Now what this particular strategy is aiming for: this strategy provides for effective surveillance mechanism for the suicide within the next 3 years. So all the people who seems to be mentally disturbed, or who seems to be in some stress or some depression, they will be particularly be challenged. The next thing that it is talking about is that establishing psychiatric OPD department, okay, which will be, that will provide the that will provide the suicide prevention service through the district mental health program. So there will be the district mental health program, and the OPD departments will be there. And in all the districts within the next 5 years, there will be the psychiatric OPDs which people can access. Then after that, it is provided to integrate the mental well-being in the curriculum in educational institution. Mental well-being will be added. Now you see this thing in society, there is always a stigma attached to the the mental issues. Why? Because we have never been taught that the mental health issue is a normal thing. Fine, we have always been taught that mental health issue is something which only the people who are affluent they have. Okay, poor people don't have it. Okay, it is something which is a kind of a psychotic thing. No, that is not, though that is a mental health issue, but we need to see it in a normal way. Okay, we need to accept it. The people having it, we need to accept it, and for that educational curriculum needed to be changed. Then the next thing that is talking about is that it envisaged developing guidelines for responsible media reporting of the suicides. Okay, so guys, you have seen that recently a Bollywood celebrity, okay, was died after a suicide that happened, okay, 2020. Now you see the media reporting after that. So responsible media reporting also needs to be there. And finally, it is providing that the focus will be made on developing community resilience, societal support, because societal support is very much important, guys. Yeah, according to a Lancet report, it has been provided. By the way, we have discussed this document in our newspaper analysis also few months back. So according to a Lancet report, 85% of the people who are suffering from the mental health issues, they say that the stigma is more problematic than the disease. So societal support is needed. Now this strategy that has been designed, this strategy, it is in line with the WHO's Southeast Asia region strategy for suicide prevention. Keep it in your mind. And at the same time, it also keeps in mind the India's cultural and social realities. Moreover, there is also a need to bring the collaborative effort. Now the efforts are needed that to prevent the suicides. Fine, we need to make it as a public health priority. Okay, the society, it impacts all the section of society. So we need to be more sensitive while dealing with this issue. So this is, guys, that has happened in this particular direction. So I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Center sets standards for e-commerce reviews. Center sets a standard for e-commerce reviews. Okay, now this particular article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, consumer rights. GS paper number 2, consumer rights. Okay, now first of all, before going in this particular article, I would like to tell you background so that you can understand it in very simple words. Okay, so guys, you all of you might have bought something from Amazon or something from Flipkart. All of you might have done that thing. Now, before you buy anything from Amazon or Flipkart, what you do, you go and you see the reviews. You see the reviews, you see the ratings are there, and we, on the basis of these reviews and ratings, order certain items. But we find that actually those reviews were the paid reviews. Those reviews were the fake reviews. You receive an item, and then you see that, okay, was this really the item for which so many of the people had reviewed? So you find that there are often the fake reviews, paid reviews, paid ratings that are there. Okay, so for example, what I can do, what often the people do, they ask the people that, okay, you give the favorable rating. Okay, thankfully, I am blessed to have the students like you who leave every day such lovely comments on both the Telegram, YouTube as well. Okay, so you are the genuine people who genuinely believe in the initiative. Okay, and I am very grateful and very thankful to you. But sometimes these fake reviews are there. So therefore, now the center is developing a standard so that these reviews on the e-commerce websites which are fake, they can be weeded out, they can be removed. So therefore, now a standard is being developed, and that standard is called as, the formal name of that particular standard is the Indian Standards IS 190020202022 online consumer reviews standard. Okay, you don't need to remember this technical entire name, just you can remember the short form. Okay, that the Indian standards for consumer reviews have been developed. Now first of all, this particular standard will be voluntary. It means that initially the websites or these e-commerce platforms have to use this particular standard so that they can ensure the users that all the reviews are genuine, they are not paid. Later this particular standard will become mandatory. Okay, this standard have been developed by the Bureau of Indian Standards, BIS. Now what this standard will be, what this standard will be containing? So basically this standard will prescribe certain methods by which the websites will ascertaining that the reviewer or the one who had commented, he is genuine or he is real. This framework will ensure the it will safeguard the consumer interest, will remove the fake and deceptive reviews, okay, and will make online platforms more genuine and authentic. Now here, if any on any website a fake review is found, then that particular thing can be punished under the unfair trade practices or violation of consumer rights, and the complaint can be made to the consumer helpline, consumer commission, or the CCPA. Okay, that particular thing can be raised. Now this particular framework, it is based on the integrity, accuracy, privacy, security, transparency, accessibility and responsiveness. On these values this particular framework is based. Now this particular standard requires that the author who is writing a comment, that author's background check is to be done, whether that author has really bought that product and after that the author is writing the review or not. So these background checks, KYCs, are to be done. It has been provided that there needs to be a method of verification of the review author, and the traceability of that particular author should also be there. Now guys, what can happen, listen this thing. Suppose I have never bought any product from the Amazon, but I have written the reviews on hundreds of the products. So you don't have any trail, I don't have any thing to justify that I have really used that. So these authors background is to be traced. Now this particular thing will benefit all the stakeholders, e-commerce players, people, all them. When these e-commerce websites will provide the genuine feedback, fine, you will trust them, and at the end of the day their business will increase. So this is something that has come. Okay, so that is all guys about it, and now we'll move to the next article. The dissenting judgment versus the raising of equality. Now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues related to reservation, issues related to the reservation as well as the affirmative action. Okay, now so recently what has happened, the Supreme Court has given a judgment. The name of the judgment is Janhit Abhiyan versus Union of India case. And in that particular judgment, the Supreme Court has given the judgment on this EWS issue. Now, guys, what happened? There was the 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act that was passed in 2019. And this 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act provided the 10% reservation to the economically weaker section people. Now, economically weaker section people are those whose, in terms of income, whose household annual income is less than 8 lakh rupees. So these people got the 10% EWS reservation. Now, this by for bringing this particular change, there was Article 15 subclause 6 and Article 16 subclause 6 that were added into the Constitution. Now, this 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act was challenged into the Supreme Court, and recently, just a couple of weeks back, Supreme Court has given the judgment that was a 5-judge bench. 3-judge bench have upheld this 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act. They had said that reservation to the economically weaker section can be given. Okay, it is not problematic. Now, understand this thing, that in this particular judgment there was one challenge that was made, and the big challenge that was made in this particular amendment, it was this, that actually this 10% reservation excludes the people of scheduled caste community, scheduled tribe community, and OBC community from claiming the reservation under EWS category. So they cannot claim reservation onto the economic basis. Okay, so they were not allowed. Second thing was that, guys, actually this particular entire judgment was said that it is violative of the right to equality. Why? Because SC, ST and OBC, they are not being given the EWS reservation. So it is violative of right to equality. They are not being treated equal. And because of that, because it is violative of equality, it is said that it breaches the basic structure of the Indian Constitution. And if you remember, in 1973, there was the Keshwananda Bharti case that came. And the Keshwananda Bharti case said that nothing can breach the basic structure of the Constitution. So therefore, what happened? This amendment violated equality, and it was said that equality is the part of the basic structure. So therefore, this entire amendment cannot be sustained. Is it clear? So this is something that was provided. Now, guys, further moving on in this particular dimension. Okay, so what has happened? Supreme Court has seen this particular amendment, and Supreme Court had said that basic structure of the constitution is not getting violated. Number one, here the SCs, STs and OBCs are not being given reservation. That is logical. Why? As per government, that is logical. Why? Because they are already getting the reservation under the SC, ST and OBC reservation category. So it doesn't violates the basic structure. Okay, I have explained the basic structure in one paragraph here also. Now, the question is saying that that judgment is not correct. The question, this article is questioning that judgment that has been given. Now the author is saying this particular thing, that a person who is poor, okay, that person is most likely to be from the oppressed caste, from the backward caste. Now it has been provided that a person who is poor, that person can be from minority religion, can be female, can have disability, can be because of the backward caste. According to the United Nations Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, it has recognized that discrimination may cause poverty. So if you are from the scheduled caste community, there will be discrimination, and that discrimination can push a person in poverty. And when a person is poor, poverty may again cause the discrimination. So discrimination may cause poverty, and poverty may cause discrimination. So discrimination is something which is always to be addressed. And when we are asking that the SC, ST and OBC need to be given reservation in EWS category, they are the ones who have been backward and they have seen discrimination. So including them was needed. Now, this article is saying that the EWS amendment had turned the theory of intersectionality on its head. Matlab that they have just disregarded the intersectionality theory. Now, what is this theory of inter? Can you can you hear me? Okay, guys, is it audible? Can you hear me? Okay, guys, is it audible? Can you hear me? Okay, fine. So the issue that's coming here in this particular direction, guys, is that the issue that is coming here in this particular direction is that intersectionality. So I was explaining intersectionality. Now, what is the intersectionality? It means that the different layers of intersection will further enhance a particular person's vulnerability. I'll take a very simple example, and then you'll understand by this example the theory of intersectionality. Now, you see this thing. Suppose there is a woman. This woman is vulnerable because of her gender. This woman is vulnerable because of her gender. Okay, that is one particular vulnerability. Now, suppose there is another woman. Now, this woman is belonging to the Dalit community. This woman is belonging to the Dalit community. Can I say that this particular woman, fine, this particular women and this other women, they are equally vulnerable? No. This second woman is vulnerable, number one, because of her gender. Secondly, she is vulnerable because of her caste. Suppose there is another woman, she is women, she is from Dalit community and she is disabled. Now this third woman is even more vulnerable. Why? Because number one, she is vulnerable of her gender, secondly she is vulnerable of her caste, and thirdly she is vulnerable of her physical status. So this third woman's vulnerability is further increased. So therefore, what we are saying that as different layers of intersection, when there will be the intersection of different layers, a particular person's vulnerability will increase. So now it is talking about this particular thing, that when a person is from the backward caste, number one, because of the backward caste, that person will be socially vulnerable, that social discrimination will happen. Secondly, because of that particular caste, okay, because of that particular caste, what will happen? That particular person will not be given the economic opportunities, so the economic vulnerability will come. Thirdly, that particular person will not be given the opportunities for political participation. So political vulnerability will come. So simply what it simply means that as more and more intersections will come, more and more layers of your identity will come, your vulnerability will be increased. That is something that has been provided. Okay. So basically it has been provided that when we talk about the SCs, when we talk about the STs, when we talk about the OBCs, they are not just socially vulnerable. They are not just socially vulnerable. These people are also vulnerable because economically they are vulnerable. They are not given the opportunities. Okay, so therefore it has been provided that when the EWS reservation was being designed, EWS reservation is reservation on economic grounds. So economic reservation is needed by these people. So they have to be given. Now, understand, government had said that these people have not been given the reservation. Why? Because already they are receiving the reservation in Article 15 subclause 4, 16 subclause 4, and there are the other provisions of Article 15 and 16 where they are already getting the reservation. But we need to understand that the reservation that they are already having, it is not the privilege. Okay, it is not the benefit, it is the reparative measure. What is a reparative? Reparation means to make up for the harm that have been done into the past. So in the past somebody has been harmed, so today we are making up for that harm. So in the past, as they have always been discriminated, so to make up for that they are being given the reservation. So it is not a privilege that has been given that will now not be given. Okay, it has to be given. So this is something that has been provided. Now, article is talking about that the dissenting judges. Now the three judges were in favor and two judges were against. So the dissenting judges, they have made a link between equality, non-discrimination and abolition of untouchability. Okay, so they have made a link between them. Moreover, this particular judgment has recognized that under Article 15 subclause 1, the state cannot discriminate on the basis of caste, race, sex, religion, place of birth. But what has happened? What has happened here? As the SC, ST and OBC are not being given the reservation in EWS category, there the reservation on the sex had happened. So therefore, this particular judgment was violative of Article 15. Now this is important. Why? Because historically, the Supreme Court has not taken Article 15. On the basis of Article 15, much of the rulings have not been decided. On Article 14, it has been decided, 16, it has been decided, but on Article 15, much of the rulings have not been decided. Moreover, the dissenting judges, they also said that Article 17, if we want to remove the untouchability, we need to give the SC people as much opportunity as possible. And even in the EWS category, they are to be given the reservation that has been provided. So therefore, understand this particular thing, that as we are talking about the EWS reservation, not including the SC people, ST and OBC people in that was not something which was very much desirable. So this is something that have been provided in this particular article. Now moving to the next article. So the article is fireproofing India from global turbulence. Now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2 as well as GS paper number 3, because this issue of fireproofing and the global turbulence, okay, both the places, the references of GS2 strategic references are there and GS3 economy related references are there in this particular article. So both GS2 and GS3 will see this particular article. Fine. Now understand, first of all, there are two concepts that have been discussed. One is the firefighting and other is the fireproofing. Okay, fighting and fireproofing. Okay, which are talked about here. First of all, let's understand that what do we mean by firefighting. What is a firefighting? Firefighting is a reactive response to a crisis that is given often because we are not prepared. Now, guys, understand this thing. What happened? Most of the countries, when they face any problem, they simply ban that thing. Okay, just we see this particular thing that just you let's take the example. What happened when the COVID-19 pandemic was started? At that point of a time, what happened? The countries locked down the entire nation. Entire country was locked down. Now, many economists have challenged that particular thing. They have said that rather than following the lockdown of the entire country, only those areas would have to be locked down where there were the rising number of cases that were coming, because the entire country was put in a lockdown. There was an economic there was a kind of an economic crisis that came. Now you take the present strategy of China. What China is doing right now presently, whenever even a single case comes in the China, they put the entire that city under the lockdown. So actually it has been provided that sometimes what we happen, we react to the situation and we behave in an erratic manner. Fine, there is often the lack of preparedness, there is a lack of capacity, and just we react. So that is called as the firefighting. Now it is saying that when we talk about India, India is looking forward to become a $5 trillion economy, $10 trillion economy by 2047. We are talking that we will become developed by the 2047. All these particular things we are talking about. So therefore, we need to understand that we have the fireproofing strategies to we have the fireproofing strategy. We should not firefight. We should not always be coming out with the reactive responsive. Reactive reactions should not be there. So the article is talking about that. See, over the past few decades, the globalization has led to the widespread economic prosperity. The countries have got a lot of prosperity. China got particularly most benefit of the globalization. Fine. So globalization had given the economic prosperity, but it has also it has also led to peeling of the inbuilt insulation. Now you see this thing. Today the world is hyper connected, and there is one saying, okay, that is there's one saying that, if listen very carefully, if USA sneezes, the world catches the cold next day. If the USA sneezes, the world catches the cold next day. So what is happening in the USA, its impact will be there on the other countries also. Why? Because of the hyper connected world in which we are living. Earlier, when the world was not hyper connected, there was the inbuilt insulation. Fine. For example, if there is an economic crisis going on in the USA, its result in India will be less if we are not connected with the USA. Its impact onto the other countries will be less if they are not very much connected. So they had the inbuilt insulations with them. But now, with the coming of globalization and with this hyper connected world, those insulations have been lost. And today the countries are more vulnerable to the things that are happening in the other countries. For example, the Russia Ukraine war. Don't you think that the Russia Ukraine war is impacting the every country in this world? Why? Because of we are connected with each other. Today we see the extremism, hyper nationalism, unequal distribution of wealth, migration, climate changes. Okay, all are these issues which are impacting the world. Fine, we need to address them globally, as well as we need to address them in the other capacities also. Now you see this particular thing, that there are the stormy seas. Now stormy seas, what are the stormy seas? Actually, there are some important issues on which there is a no consensus. The countries are in dispute, the countries are in confrontation. You take the example of recent COP27. So in COP27, between the developed and the developing country, there was a lot of divide, there's a lot of confrontation that is going on. Fine. Today we see the black swan events and the grey rhino events. Now listen, they are very important words. Black swan event is that event which is not very common, which is not common, which is a unique one, and which might have some lot implications on other countries. And there are the grey rhino events. Now the grey rhino events are those events which are common and are very neglected, are common and very neglected. So today, the Russia, China, USA, in between these countries, there are the rivalries that are increasing, and it will lead to black swan events, grey rhino events, certain events which need urgent attention, but they are either not recognized, they are either neglected, or secondly, they are very unique. Such kind of an issues will come. Today, China is talking about winning local wars. China wants to make the regional hegemony. Okay, China recently have also organized their national congress. Okay, so if you are following the newspaper analysis regularly, in the month of October, National Congress of China happened, and in that also they have talked about that they want to build their capacity. So these challenges throughout the world are going on. Stormy waters are there, and in that particular direction, we need to have the fireproofing strategy. I told you that in the long term, we want to become a developed country by 2047, and at the same time, in the as around into the medium term, Russia Ukraine war is going on, Chinese power is increasing. So we need to focus that how the Russia Ukraine war can be solved in an amicable manner, how the China's hegemony which is increasing, it can be diluted. So therefore, we need to have a fireproofing strategy. Fireproofing means that we need to have a well thought, well planned response in place, so that we can bring that particular response in action and we don't give the knee jerk reaction. Now in this particular thing, it has been provided that the fireproofing, we need to have elaborate policies on diplomacy, information, military, economics, okay, and society. DIMES framework. We need to focus on diplomacy, information, military, economics, and society. Okay. Now the society, it has been added as a new dimension. It is being provided that on the economic front, India is resilient enough. Okay. Right now there is a so much of the economic crisis that are going on, but Indian economy, it is comparatively in a good shape. Okay. But there is a still distress onto the society. Okay, there is a still basically see, though we have built the wealth, but at the same time we need to focus on poverty alleviation, on the war footing. More and more people are becoming poor, and particularly with the coming of the pandemic, it has been said that now more people are prone to vulnerability. So we need to focus on poverty alleviation, universal education, healthcare, creation of jobs, raising of other human developmental parameters. Okay, it has been provided that regardless of the resilience of the Indian people, still fireproofing is needed. People will be able to absorb a lot of shock. People of India are very strong. They have absorbed the shocks of the pandemic, economic shocks, but still we need to have the fireproofing strategy where we will make sure that the vulnerable people, the Indian economy, how they will be strengthened. That is all about it. And now we'll move to the next article. Industry seeks budget measures to spur demand amid global slowdown. So guys, now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 3, State of Indian Economy. State of Indian Economy. So actually what has happened recently, the Finance Minister of India had held a dialogue with the industry leaders, corporate managers, big corporate managers, fine, the representatives of CII, that is the Confederation of Indian Industry. And the finance minister has asked that what we need to do so that Indian economy revives. Okay, what we need to do. So basically, the finance minister had done the consultation, and this consultation are also part of the pre-budget consultation. So the budget will be released in the February. So before the budget, pre-budget consultations have been done. It is the part of that also, and a broader plan of the part that how the economic revival is to be brought. Now, the corporate managers had said that we need to focus on reduction of the income tax burden onto the household. Okay, they have provided that income tax is to be reduced, bring petroleum products, ATF, and electricity into the GST. Even till today, on the GST, there is the sale, basically, there is the state level VAT that is imposed, and even the excise duty that is imposed onto the petroleum and diesel. Because of that, they become often expensive. So they should be brought into the GST. Fine, electricity should be brought into the GST. Import duties are to be reduced so that basically the goods that are finished goods that are coming in India, they are affordable. So these are certain things that are to be done. Then secondly, the CIA has also provided that we need to lower the income tax slab rates for individuals earning up to 20 lakh rupees. So basically, actually, you might be knowing that India follows the progressive taxation rate. Under the progressive taxation rate, as your income increases, the taxation will increase, and the individual payers, if they come into the higher earning bracket, they are paying 30% tax, and on that there are additional surcharges, there are additional cesses that are there. So in India, the income tax is very much high. It has been said that the income tax slab rates for individuals who are earning up to 20 lakh rupees, it needed to be reduced. It has been provided that, see, in India there is actually an issue. See, the corporate tax rate, it is just 25.2%. So if you are a company and you are earning profit, 25.2% tax rate. But individuals, on them, the tax goes up to 42.7%. 30% is a slab tax rate where you come, okay, where you come once you are earning the income of more than 10 lakh rupees. After that, there will be a surcharge, there will be the cesses, etc., that will be imposed. So these taxes are needed to be reduced. Today, people, what they are doing, because of this gap for 25% corporate and 42.7% individual tax rate, what are doing, there are the structural decisions that are being adopted into the favorite of corporate model. What is this corporate model? People are converting the proprietorship business into the companies. People are converting the proprietorship business into the companies. It is leading to this particular kind of a challenge. So this is, guys, all the issues that are happening. Fine, I hope that you have understood it. And now we'll move to the next article. Sovereign investors favor US India as the top investment market. Now guys, what actually had happened recently, a report has been released by Invesco. And Invesco is saying this particular thing, that after the USA, India has become the top investment market for the sovereign investors. Now, who are the sovereign investors? Sovereign investors are the countries who are having the investment fund, are investing in the other countries. Now you see this thing, I am a private investor, but if government of India wants to invest in some of a project in other country, that then the government of India will be the sovereign investor. So around the world, the different governments, they have their own sovereign investment fund, and that sovereign investment fund is invested in the assets across the world. So today when we talk about the India and the USA, they are the two countries which are the most preferred investment markets by the sovereign funds. Okay, so India has emerged, just a minute, India has emerged the second most coveted investment market after the United States for the sovereign wealth fund and public pension funds. Okay, now this report has been released by the Invesco, and according to the Invesco report, it has been said that the sovereign investors, where the government is investing, that fund, the government, they are managing around 33 trillion in assets, which is very much huge. Now, the USA had remained the top destination, fine, and after that, the India has now taken over the China as the most popular emerging market for the investment. Okay, and when these sovereign investments will be coming in India, by that we can enhance the infrastructure, by that we can invest onto the ports, the highways, the roadways, the railways, etc. And we can also provide the basic infrastructure for the industrialization. So this is, guys, something which is very positive that had happened. And guys, meanwhile, please do like the initiative if you are really liking it, fine. If you think that it is adding some utility, please like this initiative, because guys, you see this thing, that we need your support, because otherwise the initiative will not be supported by our platform, and the initiative will not be able to reach to the more and more people, fine. Now there is one more article, the need to have full disclosures on electoral bonds and the political funding. Now what this particular article is talking about, guys, understand this particular thing. First of all, we are taking this particular article for so many of the days. Okay, actually in the past there are the two developments that had happened. Number one, the center had amended the electoral bond scheme, and sector had provided additional 15 days of electoral bond sales in the year when the state elections are there. So when we talk about the electoral bonds are the instrument which a citizen can buy from the State Bank of India, can give that particular piece of paper to the political party, and political party will get money in exchange of that. When an individual or a company is buying the electoral bond, they can buy it in the multiple of 1000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 1 crore rupees, and by this particular way the money, the funding can be given to a political party. Okay, fine. So this electoral bond scheme has been extended for 15 days, and Supreme Court has provided. And see, basically, meanwhile, this electoral bond scheme has been criticized also. It has been criticized of this particular fact that it is bringing the anonymity into the political funding. And there were the petitions that were filed in the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court has agreed to hear the petition who is challenging the electoral bond scheme. So because of these two particular developments that had happened, the electoral bond scheme has come into the news. Now, when we guys talk about this particular article, when we talk about this particular article that has come into the newspaper, it is actually an archive article. It is actually an archives article. What is archives article? Archive article means that this particular article was published earlier in the newspaper and now it has been published again. So this particular article was published in 2021. Okay, so this particular article was published on June 16, 2021. Okay, in the newspaper. So it is 1.5 year old article that was published. Now this particular article, guys, what it is talking about, at that point of a time, in the Supreme Court, actually a petition was made where the electoral bond scheme was challenged, and Supreme Court said that will not stay the electoral bond scheme. And if you want to know that who had donated the money into the electoral bond scheme, you can just follow that trail, and by match the following you can do that thing. So basically this particular article is criticizing that particular judgment of Supreme Court which was given at that point of a time. But Now that particular development is old because Supreme Court has taken this particular matter again. Now again the Supreme Court had taken the matter. So this particular judgment of the Supreme Court which will be coming, it will be important one. So in the article, this is talking about that particular judgment. Now here it is being given that okay, these many companies file ITR, these many companies do political funding. So that data has been given. That is not very much important for the examination. However, when we talk about the electoral bond scheme, I told you that it has been criticized since 2017. Even the election commission in 2017 had raised the objection against the electoral funding. Okay, so it has been provided that bond scheme, it is bringing anonymity. So therefore, there are the criticisms that are there. Moreover, guys, the criticism has also come after on the donation 7.5% limit was removed. Earlier there was a limit that only the companies who are making the profit, they can donate into the political party by electoral bond, and maximum 7.5% of their profits can be donated. But now as much they want, they can donate that. And as per the ADR, Association of Democratic Reforms 2021 report, it has been provided that 70% of the incomes of the political parties are coming through the unknown sources, including the electoral bond. And it has been provided out of 3300 plus crore rupees that had come. It has been provided that out of the total income, 80 total income that come from unknown sources, 88% of income have come from the electoral bond. So the article is saying that a substantial part of the political party's income, it is coming from electoral bonds, and we need to see that whether the electoral bonds are actually fueling the anonymity or not. So this is, guys, the all the relevant substance that is there. Otherwise, the details of the party, the companies filing the ITR return and all such things are not that much important. Fine, that is all about it. And now coming to the practice questions for the today. So today's question reads: discrimination may cause poverty, and just as poverty may cause discrimination. Comment. Now this particular issue, this particular question will be important for GS paper number 1 as well as GS paper number 2, issues related to poverty. Issues related to poverty. Now this type of a question has come also into the previous year. That was a question that, do you think that uh, whether the population fuels the poverty or the poverty fuels the population? This question has come already into the exam earlier. So on that similar line, this question has been given. So that is all, guys, about the today's newspaper analysis. Guys, I hope that you have understood the video, the topics, and if you have understood, then I hope that you have enjoyed it also. That is all, guys, for today. Thank you so much. Now we'll be meeting tomorrow.